Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to sit here in the shop and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the history of RAD Industries, maybe a little bit about my drift career with the Supra and kind of how it all started in the beginning of RAD Industries and how we got to where we are today. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is about the RAD parts that are on our website. And it's the way I make my living. What we're gonna do is have a little bit of a history lesson for those of you that haven't followed since day one. Some of you have, and some of you know the story. Some of you haven't. It's kind of like a three-part video, or it's one video, but there's three key elements of it that I want to talk about. And so go way back. Why is RAD Industries a thing? Why did we start it? What does RAD stand for? Things like that. So I wanted to do pro drifting, and I didn't have a job that would allow me to take enough time off. Maybe it would have, I don't know. You would have had to try. I didn't try. I just thought they're never gonna let me have 2 to 3 months of time off to drive the truck and do all this, to and from all these spots in America and all these things. So I thought, what would be the best way to do this would be start a business that's kind of related to drifting or cars so that I can control my schedule and I can come and go when I want. And possibly if it works out how I think it might, when I'm out there drifting, it's kind of like marketing or helping promote the business. So here we are, let's see, that started in 2013. So we're like 12 years later. And yes, it did do a couple of those things. So in the beginning, RAD Industries we would take anything and everything. And well, at the very beginning, I shared a shop space with Justin Pollock and this other guy. And it was like a 6,000 square foot building with some offices and 3 different businesses running in there. That didn't work so good for so long because you're stepping on each other's toes, space, someone's using more, whatever. So then I was like, hey, maybe I need to leave. It might be best. And Justin thought the same thing. The other guy that was there, his name was Darren, was very easygoing and would have had it anyway, I guess, is how I took it. Anyway, so I left, was thinking, oh, it's not going to work out. And all of a sudden, instantly, there was another opportunity within a month. We got our own building. I was like the yes man. I would say yes to any in every job. And it was mostly the worst kind of jobs. And I thought, hey, just so that I'll get more work, I'm gonna make my labor rate lower than everyone else's. Was that the right decision? Probably not, because I killed myself. It was really hard work. But eventually raised the labor rate a little bit and eventually said no and had better clientele, better jobs and whatnot. But it was all labor based. And that's not the ideal way to make money. And then along the way, working with the 2JZ and Supra, because I had had a Supra before any of the FD anything started. There was things that there was no solution to an issue, and there was things that there was no good looking part for that, you had to build something, weld it, TIG weld it. For example, if you were looking at this engine over here, the water outlet or water inlet, sorry, you would make a plate, TIG weld a 1 1/4 tube on there, and then TIG weld a -16 or 20 AN weld bung, and it looked like a penis sticking out of the middle of in between your timing belts, drilling a hole. Why are we doing that? And things like that. There was just no answer for that yet. And I was like, why isn't someone and I had these thoughts, but I would just be consumed with trying to juggle the projects and the car projects in the shop so that I could make money, so I could go spend it. Because at that point I had made it to FD and I was this rat race to make money for the next FD round. Then finally in 2019, I gambled and I made my first billet part. But before that, I had done something with a power steering kit. Didn't really have the website up and running. Before that, I had made our cups and bungs for weld bungs and cups. We'll show you guys some of these things. Little did I know, I was just doing this so that it was simpler for each car project in the shop, because we had a lot of Supras in there. We had a lot of swapped vehicles in there that were race cars on the track. Most of the Supras were street cars. They're a really done up street car. Probably should be considered a race car, but someone drives on the street 5 times a year. And then there was my own race car that's a Supra, and I was like, hey, let's do the first billet part. So, and I did it, I paid for it on a credit card and did a run of 20 pieces and way overpaid, and the profit margin was nothing. And they sold instantly, and I was like, oh, here we go. And so then it opened my eyes to a way to make money kind of while you're sleeping, if you want to say, if it's stuff sells when you're on the website, a way to make money without your hands and without your time. So the profit could grow exponentially and it could be that much greater, but it all kind of just happened by accident maybe, because I was so engulfed with my head down in these projects in the shop. Still still my favorite way to be in the shop every day. I love it. With that said, like we left California, we came to Florida, but it was all like a slow motion plan that like we thought about every move we made, and we is Renee and I, and RAD is Renee and Dan Industries. We did it that way because like it's Renee and I against the world for the rest of our life. So you guys probably already know that, some of you don't, but I just needed to tell that little piece of history so we could jump in to talk about these parts. And then I wanted to tell you more about each part. They weren't just like, let me copy someone else and make a part. They were all like a solution for an issue or a solution for an ugly piece. Cause I really like details, as you guys might know, and I like things to look good, but they need to work good, and they need to like work a long time. You know, they can't just work good for like a couple times. It's like, I want it to be reliable and look amazing, and people to be like, ooh, when you open your engine bay. And the engine is always my favorite part. The engine bay is my favorite part of the car. We're gonna talk about the alternator we make. We're gonna talk about the cups and bungs. We're gonna talk about the water inlet alternator bracket, the upper water outlet, like the different upper water necks we make. There's a bunch of little pieces. All in all, there's like 30 things, maybe a little more, a little less, that we produce. Some of it, there's only a few. Some of it, there's like a lot of pieces that make up a kit or something. And I want to talk to you about as many as we can in this video. We're going to try and consolidate this video to not be too boring. Along the way, I'm so proud of the things we made. I'm excited about it. I might not talk about as much as I should, but just me being me, it's somehow, you know, I've reached the masses of 2J engine people across the globe, and we ship parts out of the country every single week. Like 50% of our business is international, 50% is within America, and it's really cool. And I like sometimes take it for granted, but I just want to thank you guys and talk to you guys about it. But one thing that really sucks is you make these really cool parts. There's companies that just rip it off exactly, literally to a T. They copy it exactly, and then they say that they have been hard at work developing a part. I'm not going to name names, you guys will know, but there's, I think 7 of my parts, if not 8, have been copied exactly, and they make the most minute change. And there's nothing you can really do. It's the car industry. Everyone's going to copy everyone and try and take a piece of the pie. Sometimes it's someone you even know, and it really sucks because it just, that's like a stab to you. Sometimes it's not, and you're just like, dude, find your own part to think about. But maybe the person's not as creative as they should be or whatever, and they might make a cheaper version of it. It will never be the made in America beautiful piece that's like top tier, because that's what we do, is make top tier parts. Let's dive into it, step away from where we are here and go handle the parts and look at them, you know, in real life, in person, and I can kind of describe why I did some of the things I did, or the person that helped me develop them. I did not design these in SolidWorks. I had an idea, and I would do like the stupidest sketch, and then one-on-one go back and forth with a guy that's a machinist that would design it. Eventually we switched machinists because like certain, you know, time constraints couldn't be met and things like that. But there's a lot of machinists out there. They all would want my business, I would think, but I work really close with one right now. Great dude, and we're just gonna keep evolving RAD Industries parts and see how far we can take it. Obviously, we're really into the 2JZ engine. There's a bunch of other engine platforms out there, and I would think that you guys would have good input. So within reason, give me some feedback. What would you want to see? Real quick though, I was thinking LS or LT because we're in America. I guess some of you guys are not here in America, but an LT is in like the C7 Corvette, which I own one of those. And I was thinking I could make some parts for that. An LS is very similar to a 2J in my opinion. Like it's a very solid, amazing engine that's been swapped into like any kind of chassis you can ever imagine, just like a 2J. But I think the LT is next, but I would willingly buy an LS. I've owned one, but buy another one, develop parts for it. I could do the LT like I mentioned, or what do you guys think is next? Let's hear your feedback in the comments below, and then let's head over and look at a handful. And I say a handful because we don't have time to look at all of our parts. So we're gonna probably pick out like 5 to 10 and go over some of them with more detail, and some of them just like, hey, we offer this if you guys didn't know, things like that. All right, so let's head over there. We've got a couple parts on display. This isn't even 50% of the stuff that we do, but just some key items, some things that sell a lot each year all over the country, or no, all over the world. So let's talk about them. So this here is the KRC power steering kit. I didn't open this box up because it's sealed, and whoever buys this, I want them to have a sealed box. That's the KRC pump. You can check the website to see what it looks like. Here's the pulleys. We ended up making all these pulleys, the adapter, the pulley for the pump, and We've branded it RAD Industries, and the adapter goes on your crank pulley, and then this goes there. Makes actually a separate belt system, so it's just this belt by itself. Why did I start selling this and make this package here? And let me answer that question. So when I first started drifting with the Supra and the 2J and the Supra, I knew that the stock power steering setup wasn't going to cut it, because as you guys know, if you own a 2J, they'll spit belts and the stock pump won't work in drift for very long. It'll have like a set lifespan and it'll have failures. You don't know when it'll happen, and sometimes it would even spit a belt. People have got around that at this point. This is years, like almost 10 years later, but the pumps will still break and fail. And the reason is because the pump can only see so many RPM. I tried to do an electric pump to avoid all that. And the electric pump, I didn't like the feel, so then this came next. So the electric pump would work, but it's like real stiff in the pits, and it's kind of gonna blow your alternator up, and it's inconsistent, and I didn't like it. So anyways, if you guys like that, good for you. I just don't like the electric pump feel. What happens is a stock power steering pump kind of is limited around 5,500 RPM. Here's the deal. It has a smaller pulley than your crank pulley, almost every single engine you ever look at. So that means it's spinning faster than 5,500. So this is why this is how small, which is 3¼ for our crank pulley. So we're at 3¼ on the crank pulley versus like 6.78 if you had ATI. Like, I don't know what you have, 7 inches. You have like a stock or fluid amper somewhere in the range of like high 6s or low 7s. But then the pulley on the power steering on a stock JZ is like 4.5, or I don't even know actually. This pulley is 4.2. So we have 3¼ 4.2. So this one is, it's not going to be 1-to-1. You've reduced the speed, and then you also got a better pump. This pump from KRC can handle 6,500 RPM safely with all these jets. So you have the factory jet that's in here, and then you have 8 more choices. This one's less flow to make it stiffer, so it's less flow. You have 4 choices to go down in steps, or more flow if you want lighter steering. So that's a cool factor. And then we include the hardware, the bell, everything to slap it in. You just have to make your lines. That's something I started running, and then people were asking about it, and then we kept selling more and more and more. And this was like, I don't even think we had our website working yet when we started selling these. People would DM me and I would figure it out, get their shipping, send them an invoice, and sell these. And they would go all over the world then too. And then finally, we had like 2 parts then, and finally we made a website and it started getting better. We have everything to make that work. There's one other part I want to show you that you could use with this kit kind of as insurance for that kit. What I learned later was, still when you hit full lock and you deadhead the pump, you go to lock and you're like bottomed out against your lock stops. What you're doing is the pump is going to try and overrun itself, and it's going to need to use its internal bypass to bleed back to, let's say, your reservoir, or bleed back through the return line. It doesn't like it, and what it's going to happen is it's going to cavitate. Air is introduced to the system because it's trying to release the pressure so it doesn't explode basically. And when that happens, you can actually smoke one of these pumps. If you're like, let's say you're non-mechanical and you're just real aggressive driver, and you hit lock and you're like, I'm gonna make this corner work at full lock, and I'm gonna try and get even 5% more of steering angle, which isn't gonna happen. You're on lock stops. You're just hurting your pump. Introduced is this. This is RAD Industries external bypass valve. So it's basically, think of it as like a fuel pressure regulator. You can adjust the settings, because maybe you guys aren't running this. Maybe you're not running a KRC. Maybe you're using our Bosch kit. We also make a Bosch kit for power steering that's a little more cost effective. Doesn't have as many options, but it's a good system. Maybe you're using stock steering still and you want to try and save your pump. So what you do, you have an in and an out, and you have a return. In and out is the high pressure. So comes out of the pump, goes here, goes out of here, goes to your rack. Here, it goes back to the reservoir. So you have a third port in your reservoir. And then down here, you need to buy a high pressure gauge for like hydraulic systems. You can buy them on Amazon really cheap, and it's a -4 ORB fitting. So you adapt that in to set this one time, and after that you're good to go. And so what you'll do is you'll hit full lock, and it will tell you what this pump bleeds off at. This one's going to be around 1650 or 1620, something in that range. Each one's going to be slightly different. Stock pumps are going to be close to that. Maybe they're 1550. And then you would crank this down lower, like let's say 100 PSI lower, so that when you're going to hit lock, instead of this trying to internally bypass itself, which will make it cavitate, which will make it kind of lose some fluid in there, get frothy oil, and probably smoke itself and hurt itself. Instead, before it even can do that, this is going to send some fluid and release pressure back to your reservoir. So this is basically insurance for your pump. On my car, I have it set 100 PSI lower than what this has factory. And so it's at like, I'm at like 15, 20 PSI. It's not gonna change the way your steering feels, none of that. It's just gonna save your power steering pump. So that's another cool part that goes with that. Next, we have the RAD Industries. This is the RAD 160 alternator that I have an alternator company build for us to go on the 2J. We had to make this piece so it aligns right. We had to machine some stuff. We use a bigger Denso housing and we make it work with a 2J. And this is a self-exciting alternator. All it needs is this post here, and it makes 160 when it's warm. It's made for drifting. You can run all your fans and your electric pumps and water pump and everything. It's gonna handle a little more heat than the average alternator. It's a great unit. We made this because I was having issues with a different company's alternator that I would run, and they kept failing. I'd send it back. Oh yeah, we'll fix it. It's under warranty. I'm like, but why is it breaking? So then I ended up making this with this company. They didn't really make anything for a 2J, and they just kind of do one-off race car stuff. And I was like, what if I buy a bunch of them? Because people kept asking me, how does yours not fail? So I started making a bunch of them and selling them, and now we're like, 9 years later, I sell a bunch of these every year. It's a good unit. I'm happy with them. Sometimes they'll last as long as 5 years before it needs a refresh or rebuild. If you overheat it, or you don't have good grounding, or you have a bad battery that's like low, and then it's hot conditions, sometimes you might run into something. But if everything was properly set up, this will last you like 5 years. Moving down the line as quick as we can so this video is not boring. This is the first part that was created from nothing that did not exist prior. This is the version 2 of this part. I have updated it after 7 years. We decided to add a little more meat here and reduce the throw because alternators would run into this. If you had too much throw, it would just run into it. We kind of made a revision to it. We will show you guys all these parts on an engine here shortly, but this was one of the coolest things that ever happened to me, and I never knew I would be making parts. But I mean, I love billet, I love parts, I like cars, I like how things work. It slowly just evolved and happened without me even realizing it was happening. But this would be our first part that's made it directly to sell it. These ones were trying to get me to be reliable and drive the car good. And then you could make this work without this beautiful piece here and make your car functional and reliable, but this was taking it to the next level. And this is where the RAD parts started, I would say, on this part. We call it our water inlet alternator bracket. Sadly enough, 2 people have copied this part, and I think it's disrespectful. Come up with something else, find a different engine. They're not as into 2Js as I would ever have been even 10 years ago, or I currently am. They're just a company trying to make a buck, and they rip me off, and it's disrespectful. But if you guys want to know who it is, look it up, you'll figure it out. And their part looks like trash compared to this, but it has happened because it's a good idea and they copied me. We sell all our billet parts in black anno and in raw machined. Let's check out these cups and bungs here, guys. We have a couple variations and we're in the process of making even more variations. But these cups and bungs were, I believe, the very first part that I made hundreds of and was using them in the shop on all the project cars because we're a fabrication shop. We're building. That's how we started, fabrication. Roll cages, tube fronts, rear ends, welding, stuff like that, because that was a skill set I had, was welding and fabricating. I'm not the best out there. I'm decent. I had a brain that said, instead of cutting a piece of tubing and welding, TIG welding a washer for whatever size you're using for what you're fastening to, hold an intercooler, hold a crank breather, hold, whatever it is, a swirl pot, something of the sort, radiator, stuff like that. I'll show you my car. I use these everywhere. But I think I made these 7 or 8 years ago. And I had a local guy back where I lived in California start building stuff for us. So at first it started with aluminum weld bung. The reason is because there was a lot of China weld bungs out there that when you go to weld it, it doesn't weld good. And it's just like horrible weld quality. So I was like, I need better one. Oh, when you weld it, the heat changes and then it like the metal would deteriorate and the threads would suck. You almost have to chase the threads, but then it's deadheaded against the part you welded on. I was like, let's make an American made weld bung. So I did that and I made them in M6 and M8. And then instead of sitting here TIG welding the cups, which I could never find anywhere because they didn't exist, I was like, let's machine those. And to do it, I think I had to make like 200 at a time, if not more. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. And so I just invested in it so I could use it on the customers, because technically I thought I was saving the customer money by, instead of saying, hey, pay me for fabrication time to cut, as best I could, uneven lengths of whatever we had it at, 3/4 inch. This one's closer to 5/8. And then sit there and TIG weld a washer. And sometimes we would sit there and we'd weld 20 of these so that we had some stock of them. And it was like me or some guys working for me that would do it. So we finally made these and they've been a big hit, and I was able to bring the cost down for the customer, for the end user like you guys. And it's a great part. These have also been copied, unfortunately. We'll keep selling these and we'll have the best prices out there. We're gonna make a couple of different variations. These are on the website. We have them in steel. So if it's on like a roll cage or something, or tube front end and you want to mount something, so it's steel to steel or aluminum to steel for like an intercooler, radiator, other kind of coolers that are going to be aluminum. And we have them in M6 and M8. We also have an aluminum cup. Those don't sell too much because what are you going to use that for as much? But the idea is here you land like a small tube on here. I'll show you the car and you'll see what I'm talking about. I did forget to mention on this part, this is a female -16 ORB. So that you can put a -16 in there, and we do have our own fittings with our logo. Or if you wanted a 16 upsized to a 20, you can thread that in there. And then next is these small little bits here. But these are important to make your car look good or your engine look good. We try and go above and beyond from whatever else is out there. Some of these parts other companies may build, like this one. I think there's probably like 10 companies that build all these. We kind of have a price point that's lower, but higher quality American made parts. Turbo oil drain. This is a turbo oil level block off for like race car. If you have a street car, you might still want to know if your factory Supra wants to know the oil level, you don't want that part because the wire harness will go to the sensor there. Or a cam sensor delete. We all offer these in black as well. When you get to these parts, these did not exist. I've never seen these before. I made these. This is a universal piece that goes for a GE head for the water exit on the exhaust side, and it also goes on the back of a water pump if you want to convert to AN. It seals with a O-ring, same as this, seals with an O-ring, but we'll show you this on an engine. This two-piece design, I call it the 2JZ rear coolant exit AN conversion. You have a hard pipe that comes out of the back of the head on all JZs that goes to your heater core in a factory car, but maybe you have an engine swap, or maybe you're the guy that wants everything to be AN. So you'd have to pull your head off, drill and tap that, which I've done on my race cars many times, but not everyone can pull their head off and drill and tap, pull that pipe out and drill and tap that to an AN. So we thought of this part, and it's a dual O-ring seal. It seals over that pipe, and then it lets you convert it to an ORB-8, which you could take an 8 to an 8, which is what you see here, or you could do an 8 to a 6, 8 to a 10, whatever you want. Or you could do one of these cool radium swivel banjos for a low profile 90, and you could do that from an 8 to an 8, 8 to a 10, 8 to a 6, whatever you need. And same deal goes with this part I just talked about. That is an 8 ORB, because everyone's going to plumb their stuff different. So these are a couple little pieces, very cost effective comparatively to other companies. We got them on the website, black and raw machined. Moving forward, we have like the upper water neck. This is for a GTE head. And this swivels too. I would hope that you don't swivel it. I would hope that you could make it come straight out level. The cool thing about this part mixed with this part is the end point of this and this is dead nuts the same. So when it's on the block and you put your AN, your lines, because I'm like a detail guy, and your lines, your AN lines will come out at the exact same point. So that needed to happen for me, and then I haven't really talked about that, but that's the deal. This part is for a dash 16 ORB as well, for the female side, but you can convert it. Beautiful piece. It has ports in the bottom for all your different sensors and or extra stuff or coolant return from the turbo, because this is going to head back to the radiator. And if you don't need them, we got plugs for you. But we tried to give you all the options. That's GTE head. This is a GE head. This is a harder part for us to build, but I needed you guys to be able to have the option to convert to AN. A GE measures its temperature not in the upper water neck, but I've given you choices here. If it's aftermarket, ECU, and different stuff. This seals with an O-ring, just like all our other parts on the head. This will fit with aftermarket intake manifolds or the OEM manifold. Very beautiful part if you're trying to build a JZ on the cheaper side so you can get a GE, but you still want to make it beautiful. This is the solution for you. Still moving forward from there, we came out with these parts this year. This is a roll cage clamp. So this clamps your roll cage, this 1.5 inch roll cage tubing clamp. This would be like for your fire suppression pull, and so this would go on your A-pillar. The thing is every car is built different, and every car has a different angle on the A-pillar bar, which is the windshield is your A-pillar. And so this bar would be basically right here in America. If you're a right-hand country right here, this would clamp here. The reason it doesn't grasp the whole bar is because what if you had a super tight roll cage that's basically on the A-pillar or welded to the A-pillar? What if you had a bunch of gussets everywhere? This still needs to fit in there, and it will. Like we'll show you on the car. And then this moves because when it's clamped there, you don't know what the orientation is, and you might need to change that for the driver to be able to pull the fire suppression. Also, Formula Drift came out with a rule that we have to have nitrous pull, so this can work for nitrous and fire suppression. And this one is for the mandatory new kill switch for FD for this year. Formula Drift made that mandatory, but me and Kevin Wells from Formula Drift worked together to create a beautiful solution that's easy for these drivers to install the new tech rules without having to weld and hopefully not change their car too much. And they've been a pretty big hit. They've been selling to other countries too, which I guess they're just copying FD. But at the same time, it would make it easy. Instead of welding and stuff, you could buy this and install your fire suppression. It's cost effective and it's super easy to install. We're going to come out with some more solutions with the same clamp for different stuff, but that's where we have now. And we also have them in 1.625 tubing and 1.75 inch tubing. Different guys like drag racers use bigger tubing, things like that. That was this year's latest part, I would say, and we're coming out with a couple other parts. We're always going to try and evolve to new parts, like I was telling you. If you guys have ideas, let us know. We'd be happy to build more parts. Last but not least is another part that is actually not on the website yet. That will be shortly. We have sold a ton of these, but it's basically through emails and DMs on Instagram. And thank you guys for following so closely. But these are the race covers. We make them for non-VVTi and VVTi. We also have a full upper cover, or this shorty that you see here. You guys think, oh, someone made those before. Probably not. These are without the hole. The idea is when you have this part behind here, normally there's an accessory tensioner, which we'll show you here in a second. And this is to eliminate that hole that a factory one would have, which we'll show you, so that nothing can get into your timing belt and it has a clean, beautiful, flush look, but also safety from anything jumping in your timing belt and jumping timing, bending valves, hurting the engine. So this is just like, let's say, a third of the part. It's probably less. These are just some of the parts we make and some stuff I grabbed off shelves, thought I'd talk about to start these videos for you guys. It's fun for me to talk about parts. I probably forgot some stuff, but let's head over to these engines over here that are just sitting here, and we'll kind of show you a little bit more of how they look on the engines. These are just display engines on engine stands. And then you guys can jump on the website if you need some stuff, have a look, get what you need, or if you have questions, you can always email us. So grab the email off the website, email if you have questions, and I'd love to help. So real quick, I want to show you guys how I use the cups and bungs. There's many other uses for them, but I'm going to show you on my race car. I'm going to forget some areas, but they're in like 20 different spots. So looking at the intercooler, they've been powder coated, but the bung was welded onto the intercooler. The cup is here, part of like the chassis. I don't know if you are able to see like down there, just real quick. they're here, they're underneath this guy holding it on. I'm using it for like a front bumper, like a chin bar support, oil cooler, which you saw here, intercooler. Then when you go over here, my nitrous solenoids are using cups and bungs. You can be creative, use them however you want. Back here, this is a lot different than what you would see normally, but how I have my fuel system for like the fuel fill from the Radium Quick Fill, it's just made with like 1/4-inch hot rolled steel welded to bungs or cups. Look at how strong this is. You could stand on it. It looks different. It's, you know, saving weight and space, I guess. If you look over there, I have the radium expansion tank to the recovery tank. That's all just with cups and bungs welded onto here, and or the radium was threaded, but I have like cups behind it. Then the back of the car is held up with that. You see it here, here. So I have like a bung welded onto the chassis, a cup here on this bent piece of metal here. Oh, the radiator's mounted with it. I don't know, there's just everywhere you look, if I could mount something, probably use cups and bungs because it saves you time. And when you see how thin this material is, people are like, why did you do it with that? Like, because they're thinking they need to use like thicker, stronger. You're doing it overkill if you're using like 1/2-inch tubing. The car is strong enough with very minimal, but it takes years to figure that out. But I've used cups and bungs all throughout lots of car builds, street car builds, race car builds, all kinds of stuff. They're on the website. We sell them in single sets. We sell them in like packs of 6. It's a good deal. It saves you time, saves you money. So check them out, guys. All right, so let's show you guys some of the parts on some display engines, and we have a couple different variations here. I think one of the key things to making good parts is still being into the thing that you're doing, still using this engine, which I still use it in most of my vehicles. It's still entertaining to me, and I'm still trying to evolve it and make things better. So I care if it doesn't work perfectly, and then I'll make a change, revision, or won't even sell it unless it's like a good solid unit, product, whatever you want to say. And then we're making it here in America with the people building it or machining it also care to make sure we have a perfect product. So I don't know, I just thought I should say that. So let's start here at the back of the head. Here's an example. Stock water pipe that comes out. We've converted this to a -6. This one, since this is an NA, it has a lot of exits for water. This just heads up over here to this upper water neck. It tees underneath here under the manifold, and that's gonna take that hot water, and it's gonna exit it back to the radiator, because this will head to the radiator. Here's a visual of what this GE upper water neck looks like. Looks pretty amazing to me. You guys have your own opinion, but that thing looks good. Then head over here to this side of the engine, and that's that other part that I was telling you is a dual purpose part, but that's where the water would circulate back to the water pump, which is no longer there. But I'm using that water to feed the turbo, and then I'm taking the hot turbo water, and that's the other part of the T where it comes back here, heads home to the radiator. You might think, hey, the hot water coming out of the head feeds the turbo. Well, guess what, guys? The turbo gets super hot. Like it could even go to 1300 degrees sometimes in the supercore there in the middle. Hopefully not, but like your EGTs get that hot. So your turbo is the hottest thing on the engine, especially the exhaust side. So if you're gonna give it some 180 to 210 degree water, it's pumped when it gets 200 degree water, and then it makes it a lot hotter than that when it exits, comes into here, goes back to the radiator. Here's what the water inlet alternator bracket looks like on any JZ. 1JZ, 2JZ, GE, GTE, all the same bolt pattern. That's what it looks like. Here's what those covers look like. Some of you guys are asking, what the heck are these fancy fittings? Sorry, these are a little over the top. They still use a -16 ORB. It's dual O-ring seal. That's called a clamshell. Looks similar to a Wiggins, but these are clamshells from XRP. Not everyone's gonna pay for all that. I put this on my display engine. The idea here was for you to convert to AN. I took it to the next level. If you guys want to do that, you can. Here's the KRC power steering kit mated to a fluid damper pulley with the RAD 160 alternator. So that's kind of the done deal there. Looks beautiful. The reason that it's 2 different belts, and they're small belts individually, They tension just with like, you loosen it, tighten it to where you want it, tighten it down. You don't throw belts. You'll go years on the same belts. It's a good system. Proven on my race car on the track and many other people in FD and other countries around the world. Okay, let's move over to this engine. This is a GTE engine. This is our Bosch pump kit. That's pretty cool. A little bit more cost effective. I don't use this on my cars. I get the more expensive one with choices on your jet system. But if you don't want to spend the money for that one, you want to save a couple $100, this will get the job done. It doesn't fail. It doesn't wear out quick like a stock one would. We've reduced the speed, same way. It's a great system and it's a little bit more cost effective. Bolts right to it. These are all race car solution power steerings. These will not work on your street car because your AC pump would be right there. If you have dry sump, sorry, this will not work with dry sump. Moving on, here's what the upper water neck would look like on a GTE. I do not have a fitting in that. I don't know why I removed it. But anyways, that is a GTE. That's a GE. Move over here. This is also a GTE. This has a couple other parts on it that are not on those ones. This is more stock. It has a stock water pump. This company here, I started selling their parts. I haven't got it on the website. I just got going on this, but this guy, now you know who made this bracket, so you don't think I made it, but regardless, I'm going to be selling it. So if you do want this bracket system here, you would buy it from me. This goes with the KRC power steering, but you're going to be running a stock water pump, so you need extra belt systems. And he came up with this solution so that you can run a stock water pump, stock accessory belt tensioner, but it wouldn't be 4 things going here. It's added a 5th pulley to the system, which allows it to actually work, and it lets this accessory tensioner work, and then it lets him still utilize a stock water pump. There's not as many people running this setup as just a full factory setup or this other setup that we just showed you on these other 2 previous engines, which I run that setup. This is another alternative if you're kind of the in-between guy and you do want to run a stock water pump. On top of that, we do make a different upper water neck that works with a stock water pump, and then we make a different lower water neck that clears the aftermarket exhaust manifold and single turbo setup and puts your water coming straight down behind the alternator to clear the area you need right here for your exhaust manifold. Jump over here for a second. You see this piece is 2 pieces, and I can unthread it here, which you would do if you were running this front sump style engine. You would unthread this and you'd put your A in right into that. That's also going to be DES 16 ORB. If you had a rear sump, your sump wouldn't be right here. It would be back here, like on the other engines. And you could put a silicone hose to this or put your A in there. With the front sump, you're kind of running out of space. That's why we made that a 2-piece to allow for the different variations of engines for a 2JZ. Real quick, I tried to cover as much as I could. Hopefully I did kind of cover all the parts we talked about and then some. There's still more parts that we need to talk about, but this stuff's all exciting for me, and I hope that you guys need some of this stuff or didn't know about it and now you do, so you can check the website. On top of these parts, obviously we sell tons of other stuff like from other companies like Radium, Turbo Smart, ACT, things like this, Tycon. We have a lot of stuff on our website. I'm forgetting lots of things. We have every single gasket and seal you would need to rebuild a 2J on our website as well. So you have those options. And then, like I said, if I forgot something, just email us and we probably have the connection to get that thing for you with all the other stuff you need from our website, and we could help you out. RAD Industries started with fabrication and saying we're the yes man to doing any job we could to cover rent, to being able to move to a different area, make parts, and we're still having fun having a shop. And we probably will not build your race car for you because we say no more than we used to say yes. We kind of say we're the no people now, but we will help you get parts for your car, and we would love to help you source all the parts. Oh, thinking about it like Wise Fab, things like that. We would love to help you source parts for your race car, street car, whatever it is. If it has a 2J, even better. If not, we still can help. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. we're going to do more videos like this, but we will do more individual videos that are not this long. This is a really long video. Sorry about that. We'll do videos that are like 10 to 17 minutes, somewhere in there, that are just talking about one part and the details of the part, how it works, how to install it, things like that, so that you could refer back to that part. But we're just trying to reintroduce RAD Parts and talk more about the business. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more parts from RAD Industries, more videos, more parts, and let us know in the comments what you want to see more of, because we would love to cater to what you guys, need, or there isn't a solution for yet. So let's hear it from you guys, and see you guys at the racetrack. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, see ya.